Hier studieren Leute aus aller Welt. Doch irgendwann dampft der Kopf und knurrt der Magen. Dabei verlangt jeder nach einem anderen Leckerbissen.
The Victoria sponge cake was made in like the late 1800s, where people used to just eat a regular sponge cake, which was just a standard cake with sugar on top. Queen Victoria decided to cut the cake open and put icing sugar and strawberry jam inside, and it kind of just became the Victoria sponge cake, kind of like a staple of English baking. When I was young, probably about 8 years old, I would go to my grandparents' house and would eat the cake. You take the first bottom layer and you add your icing sugar and you just spread it around everywhere.
I'm from the north, so we usually have Yorkshire tea because in the north it's Yorkshire is like a county, and everyone from like the north always takes a Yorkshire tea usually, but people from like the Midlands or the south, they usually take different teas. Like, for example,
I'm from the Midlands, so PG Tips is like the tea brand that everyone I know drinks. Yeah, it's the best.
It's not.
Okay, so now you put your jam on. You just take your other side of the cake and you just place it on, and you give it a little push. So it all kind of squeezes together. And then, yeah, the cake's pretty much done.
Well, it's a street food, first and foremost, but it's also a cheap one because in the Philippines, the major like fruits that we grow is bananas and pineapples, so it's kind of like a cheap snack for everyone. During the World War, when there's like rationing and stuff, there was lots of bananas, so they used bananas for dishes like this. My mum was from the north of the Philippines, and that's where the banana queue like came from, because that's where the farmlands are. And when I go there, when I was a kid, to visit my grandparents, my grandmother would always make it. You know, the second I get there, she'd always have it ready. It's always a nice thing as a little boy. Again, my mother, she's the one who cooks the most in our family. She cooks from meals to little snacks to desserts and starters and everything in between. I just sit in the kitchen and watch her cook whatever. Once it's done, there's usually different toppings for it. Sometimes you can have more brown sugar, but that's a bit too much. You can have sesame seeds, you can have jackfruit, kind of a strip of jackfruit just lined on top of it to add extra flavor, but right now we're just gonna have a basic one.
Wir kochen Yummy Star heute und Yummy Star heißt nichts anderes als gefüllt oder befüllt. In dem Fall haben wir jetzt Paprika, die wir füllen, aber in der griechischen Küche kann man auch Auberginen füllen oder Zucchinis füllen oder Tomaten füllen. Man kann so gut wie jedes Gemüse füllen, und zum Beispiel, wenn man eine Aubergine füllt, dann heißt das Paputaki. Paputaki heißt der Schuh. Also jedes Gericht hat einen anderen Namen, aber das hier sind praktisch die Klassiker der Yummy Star. Es ist auch so, wenn man eingeladen ist bei einer griechischen Familie zum Essen, oder wenn man auch nur so in das Haus einer griechischen Familie kommt, ist die Philoxenia bei uns ganz wichtig. Philoxenia heißt einfach Gastfreundschaft. Und die wird ganz groß geschrieben bei den Griechen. Das heißt, es ist sehr unhöflich, Nein zu dem Essen zu sagen. Man muss zumindest probieren. Okay. Das ist so, Philoxenia. Also mein Papa, der hatte auch ein Restaurant und ich bin so aufgewachsen in der Küche, und auch die Omas, die da kochen und naja, so Kochen ist halt auch so eine Familiensache, auch so eine Gemeinschaftssache, und alle helfen mit. Wenn man griechisch essen geht, dann kriegt man nicht Also meistens ist es nicht so, dass man ein Gericht bekommt für jeden, sondern man bestellt viele kleine Teller und auf einem der kleinen Teller ist immer Feta. Meine Oma, die steht schon morgens in der Küche und fängt an zu kochen, schon für mittags, weil sie kocht immer für die ganze Mannschaft, obwohl wir nur zu 4 sind. Aber das ist halt so, sie macht und macht und macht und dann kommt auch meine Tante, die drunter wohnt, zum Essen. Und es ist so, Essen ist immer eine Sache von Gemeinschaft. Yemisa.
What is the meal called that we're making?
Bún Thang,
Okay.
kind of noodles. I will put the chicken into the boil it together.
In the broth?
Yes, actually in Vietnam I will put the whole chicken into the broth.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have kind of mushroom. It's also a specialty in Vietnam. This kind of mushroom called nấm hương. We like to make it nice looking, and also delicious. So, especially in the north, they decorate the food very carefully. I didn't cook or do housework when I was very little, and until 18, I don't know how to cook either. Once in summer, when my mother was a happy stove, you know that when we in the happy stove and we like to eat something that we want but we can't, and the things in the happy stove is not very good. So I tried to cook, and that was the first time I cooked. This was for my mom, and when I bring the food to the happy stove, when she have it, she's so surprised because she didn't see I cook. So when I bring that to her, she cries and she have it on. So I feel very happy about that. And from that time, I get familiar with cooking. In the past time, it was a difficult time because in that time Vietnam was in war. So my grandma at that time had to do all the things. So my mother was managed to cook by herself for the whole family, not just for her, for the whole family when she was 8.
Jetzt einmal die Maultaschen. Der schwäbische Name für Maultaschen ist ja Herrgottspscheißerle. Aber Maultaschen haben ihren Namen eigentlich daher, dass sie in einem Kloster in Maulbronn eben erfunden wurden. Und sie wurden da eben dazu genutzt, um während der Fastenzeit trotzdem noch Fleisch essen zu können. Weil eigentlich ist es ja so, dass in der Fastenzeit kein Fleisch gegessen werden darf. Praktisch in der Teigtasche sollte es vor Gott versteckt sein.
I started asking my grandma like the secrets of it, so that I know how to cook it properly. And I actually took part in some tournaments for cooking tortilla in Spain. When I was a small kid, maybe I was like 7, and I remember that I won. Obviously my grandma helped a little bit, and the prize was a big Spanish cheese. Very carefully. I was maybe alone with my brother at home, and our parents told us to cook something, so I decided to go for the tortilla. We're talking about a lot of oil, very hot, a little bit dangerous, but it's always there is always some task that small children can do, like peeling, maybe getting all the ingredients, or helping scramble the eggs. Okay, so we're going to flip it, and now we deliver it like this. Yeah, so this will be the final result.
Now we're making something we can eat with Mexican tortillas. They don't really look like tortillas de patata. They look like this. Yeah.
Actually, not so different. If you look at them,
Maybe they're
color.
round.
They're round, same color.
Yeah. So let's start with the mole. I just cook mole in special occasions, like on my birthday or when I want to show Mexican heritage to people from other countries, because this is like my favorite Mexican dish. This mole comes from a special region in Veracruz, my state, from a city that's called Jico. That's why this is mole jiqueño. In the original recipe, there were around 100 ingredients. Now I think it's about 17, but nobody does this from scratch. Actually, today, the 5th of May, is a very special day, mostly for mole, because Cinco de Mayo, maybe you've heard of it, it's La Batalla de Puebla, the Battle of Puebla, and mole comes originally from Puebla. I think it comes from a cluster, El Convento de Santa Rosa, because there was this nun who wanted to impress the El Virrey, the Vice King.
Are you trying to get the chicken really small? Or?
Yeah, to mix it in the pot with the mole. There's people that actually like it like as a whole piece, like just pour the mole over it, but I like it more like mixed. The way I cook it, my mother taught me.
Okay.
But this mole is regional. There are like different sorts of mole. There's mole rojo, that one's like red. The most known mole is mole Doña María. That's like the most typical one you find, like the traditional one from Puebla. Pico de gallo. This is known as la salsa huevona, but it's also known as the Mexican salsa because it has the Mexican colors, red, white, and green. And it's pico de gallo because of the form of the small cubes.
Na, läuft das Wasser schon im Mund zusammen? Es lohnt sich, auch mal über den Tellerrand der Kommilitonen zu schauen.